A cold millionaire CEO ignores a street food vendor, but a fried egg with rice ends up stealing his heart. Before we start the story, tell us in the comments, what city are you watching from? And when it's over, don't forget to rate this story from 0 to 10. Enjoy. If there was a manual about cold, distant, and slightly grumpy CEOs, Henry Mitchell's face would definitely be on the cover. Owner of one of the biggest investment firms, impeccable suits, serious look, and steady steps. Every single day, without fail, he walked down Lincoln Avenue on his way to the office, ignoring everything and everyone, including a certain stubborn girl with a food cart. "Morning, Mr. Fancy Tie," she'd shout with a smile, flipping her spatula on the griddle, making the rice dance in the hot oil. Henry acted like she didn't exist, eyes fixed on his watch, his phone, or the sky. He didn't move a muscle. And that's how life went. At least, until that night. After a nightmare of a day, filled with meetings, annoying clients, and more spreadsheets than any human should ever have to deal with, Henry finally left the building, way later than usual. And the moment he stepped onto the sidewalk, his stomach made a noise like a trapped thunderstorm. He stopped, looked down at his own belly in disbelief. And then it happened. The smell. The most outrageous, tempting, criminally delicious smell he had ever experienced. A wild mix of golden garlic, sizzling rice, and a fried egg popping in the oil. It was so powerful it felt like it had hands pulling him by the collar of his expensive suit. And guess where it was coming from? The cart. That girl's cart. The one he'd ignored for months. Emma, of course, noticed immediately. With a playful grin, she crossed her arms and said, like she already knew how the story would end, "You look like someone's starving. Want me to fix you a plate?" Henry straightened his tie, took a deep breath, and filled himself with CEO attitude. He answered, coldly and full of pride, "No thank you, I don't eat street food." What happened next was almost poetic. His stomach growled so loudly that a dog across the street started barking in fear. Emma tried not to laugh, but failed. "See, your stomach's asking for food. Doesn't matter how elegant you act. Right now your belly's the boss, Mr. Tie." He rubbed his face, looked away, crossed his arms. "No, I'm not. It's just a normal digestive noise." Digestive noise. "Sure," she said, laughing. "So you want a plate, or are you just going to keep arguing with your stomach?" He sighed, looked at the cart, then at his stomach. "Fine, make one," he muttered. Emma smiled, the kind of smile that lights up a whole street. "Knew you'd give in. Welcome to the tasty side of life." She grabbed her spatula, threw rice on a griddle, some onion, garlic, scallions, a drizzle of oil, and then cracked an egg that sizzled like fireworks. "You want it spicy?" she asked, stirring the pan. "Not too much. Just normal," he said, arms crossed, clearly uncomfortable. "Relax, Mr. Tie. This is rice, egg, and dignity on a plate," she winked. The smell got even more illegal. Henry stood there tense, staring at the griddle like it was a minefield. When she was done, she packed it into a food container and handed it to him with a smile. "Here you go, Mr. Fancy Tie." "Why do you call me that?" "Look at you. Tie, custom-tailored suit. You look like you're going to a board meeting just to buy bread." "It's just elegance," he tried to explain, adjusting his tie. He took the container, stepped a few feet away, looking for a spot where no one could see him. He looked at the food, suspicious. Took a deep breath. And the first bite. The whole universe seemed to shut down for a second. How can this be so good?" he thought, as that unbelievable flavor took over his senses. It was just fried rice, egg, and garlic, but somehow it was more than that. It tasted like childhood, like home, like comfort, like a memory buried deep in his soul. Within seconds, he finished the whole thing, didn't even notice. Emma, of course, had been watching from a distance, and when she saw it, she shouted, "Wow! Do you always chew like you're mad at the food, or is today special?" Henry, wiping his mouth with a napkin, tried to look composed. She crossed her arms, raised an eyebrow, and asked, amused, "So, what did you think?" He straightened his tie, put on a bored face, and answered in the most uninterested tone he could fake, "It's all right, not that great." As if his stomach were part of the truth squad. Right then, another loud growl. Emma didn't let it go. "Well then, tell me this. Do you want another plate? Or do you need to run to the bathroom?" His eyes widened, clearly unsure whether to laugh, run, or dig a hole and disappear. Out of options, he lowered his voice and answered, almost in a whisper, "One more plate." "There you go. Give in to happiness, Mr. Tie," she said, already tossing more rice on the griddle. He ate. Again. Every last bite. Scraped the container clean. Then he adjusted his suit, paid, without really looking her in the eye, and walked off quickly. But there was something different in his expression. Something had changed. He just couldn't explain what. The next evening, he left the Brooks Industries building exactly at 6:30 p.m., just like always. Impeccable suit, perfectly knotted tie, steady, determined steps. The plan was simple. Walk straight past the cart, get in the Porsche, and go home. No looking. No stopping. No thinking about that fried rice and egg that had stayed with him all night. But, well, life has its ways. As he neared the corner, Henry slowed down, just a little, almost unnoticeable. Then he pretended to check a message on his phone, but really he was trying to sense something in the air. And there it was. Golden garlic, caramelized onion, rice sizzling on the griddle, and that unmistakable sound of an egg crackling in hot oil. Henry stopped, took a deep breath, looked at the cart, looked at the car, then back at the cart. Oh no, he muttered to himself, I'm not falling for this again. He took 3 more steps toward the Porsche and, well, look who's back, Emma shouted, waving her spatula like it was a magic wand. Mr. Fancy Tie couldn't resist, huh? That was it. He'd been caught. Henry froze on the sidewalk, clearly embarrassed. Emma stood there with that mischievous smile, like she already knew exactly how things would play out. I wasn't, he began, nervously adjusting his tie. I was just passing by. Sure, she nodded, pretending to be completely serious. Just passing by real slow, staring at the cart, sniffing the air, totally just passing. Henry blushed slightly. I wasn't sniffing anything. Oh no? Then why are your nostrils doing this? She exaggeratedly mimed someone sniffing the air. He instinctively touched his nose, which made Emma burst out laughing. Relax, Mr. Tie. Everybody does that when they smell my food. It's normal, it's science, it's irresistible. Henry tried to keep his cool, but Emma could see it. He was clearly struggling inside, torn between executive pride and a deep craving for that food. Fine, he said at last, like he was doing her a huge favor, just to confirm if it was really good. Emma clapped her hands. There it is, you admitted you want more. I like honest customers. It's not that I want, he protested. It's just scientific curiosity. Of course, scientific curiosity. Got it, she said, already tossing rice on the griddle. So, what does science want today? The same as yesterday. That'll do. Emma began working her culinary magic. This time Henry didn't pretend not to be interested. He watched her every move, fascinated by the way she handled the ingredients. She drizzled a bit of oil on the griddle. It sizzled and spread perfectly. Then came the minced garlic, quickly turning golden and releasing that smell that really should be illegal. Next, the seasoned rice, stirred with precision. Where did you learn to cook like this? Henry asked, genuinely curious. From my grandmother, Emma answered, cracking 2 eggs onto the hot griddle in one smooth motion. She always said good food takes 3 things: technique, care, and a little bit of mischief. Mischief? Oh yeah, like adding a secret spice that keeps people hooked and always coming back, she said with a playful wink. Henry chuckled. Just a quiet laugh, but Emma noticed. It was the first time she'd seen a genuinely amused look on his face. So what's the secret spice? If I told you, it wouldn't be secret anymore, right? She said, flipping the eggs like a pro. But here's a hint. It's not just seasoning. It's intention. Intention? You know when you cook thinking about the person who's going to eat it, wishing they'll feel happy, full, with a warm heart? That goes into the food too. We call it soul seasoning. Henry watched her as she finished the dish. There was something mesmerizing about the way Emma worked. It wasn't just skill, it was passion. Every move had purpose. Every gesture carried love. All done, she announced, serving the food in a clean tray. Fried rice with egg, soul seasoning included. Henry took the plate and had his first bite. And once again, the world stood still. It was even better than he remembered. The rice was perfectly cooked, fluffy but not dry. The egg had crispy, golden edges, but the yolk was still creamy. The seasonings blended into a symphony of flavors that brought back memories he didn't even know he still had. It tasted like Sunday at Grandma's house. A kitchen full of laughter. Family gathered around the table. A time when life was simpler and the important things were, well, simple. My goodness, he murmured, unable to stop eating. Good, right? Emma smiled, pleased. I told you it had soul seasoning. This time Henry ate more slowly, savoring every bite, but Emma noticed he was still hungry when he finished. Want some more? She asked. Well, he hesitated. Maybe just a little. Just to make sure it's still good, right? More scientific curiosity? Exactly. Emma made another plate, this time adding a few extra spices she saved for special customers. Henry ate slowly, clearly enjoying every flavor. "Emma?" he said after finishing. "Yes. Thank you. Really, I didn't remember food could taste like this." "Taste like what? Like happiness, maybe?" Emma smiled, and Henry felt something strange in his chest, like a frozen piece of him was starting to thaw. "That's the goal," she said. "Food should feed more than just your stomach." Henry paid, gave her a generous tip, and said goodbye. But this time he didn't rush off. He walked more slowly, even looked back over his shoulder and waved before getting into the car. And that's how the most unexpected habit in Henry Brooks's life began. The next day, he showed up again. And the day after. And the next. Always with the same excuse. Just making sure it's still good. But Emma noticed the changes. Each day he seemed a little less tense, smiled a bit more, stayed a little longer to chat while he ate. By the second week, he started asking about her life. Where she was from, how long she'd had the cart, what she liked to do in her free time. By the third week, he began to share small things about himself. That he worked too much. That sometimes he forgot to eat. That he couldn't remember the last time he'd had a real meal before discovering her cart. And Emma, without realizing it, was being won over too. Not just by the transformation she saw in him day after day, but by the kind and funny person starting to show behind the cold CEO mask. Henry had a dry sense of humor that made her laugh. He asked smart questions about cooking, and he always praised her food like it was the best thing he'd ever tasted. "You know what's funny?" Emma said one Thursday while preparing his plate. "What? You came here all dressed up and serious, pretending you didn't want anything from me. Now you're here every day, smiling, chatting. Who would have thought rice and eggs could tame a CEO?" Henry laughed for real this time. A warm laugh that gave Emma butterflies in her stomach. "I think," he said, turning a bit serious, "you didn't just tame a CEO. You tamed a man who had forgotten how good it feels to be happy." Emma stopped stirring the food for a moment and looked into his eyes. There was something different there. Something warm. Something real. "Well," she said, turning back to the food to hide her nerves, "if that's the case, then my mission here is complete." "What mission?" "To prove that everyone can be happy. Sometimes all it takes is someone who believes in that. And a plate of rice and eggs made with care." Henry smiled, and Emma felt something changing between them. It wasn't just customer and vendor anymore. It was something more. Something that warmed the heart and made the world feel like a better place. And as he ate his rice and eggs that afternoon, Emma had no idea that the mysterious man in the suit and tie was hiding secrets that would change everything. 3 weeks after their first food cart encounter, Emma knew Henry's schedule like clockwork. Every day at exactly 6:30 p.m., he appeared at the corner with that just-passing-by look. But he always stopped for his daily rice and eggs. And the funniest part? He still pretended it was just a coincidence. "Hey there, Mr. Fancy Tie," Emma greeted that Thursday, already tossing rice on the griddle before he could say a word. "Let me guess? Just passing by to make sure it's still good?" Henry laughed, adjusting his tie in that slightly awkward way Emma now found adorable. "You know me too well," he admitted. "But today I swear I really was just passing by." "Sure, and I'm the Queen of England," she replied, cracking 2 eggs onto the griddle. "Your nostrils have been flaring for 5 minutes, Henry. Just admit you're hooked on my food." "Hooked is a bit strong. Dependent? Better." Emma laughed, stirring the golden garlic that was starting to release that same criminally good smell as always. "You know what I find funny?" she said, flipping the egg with a graceful move that had been hypnotizing Henry for weeks. "Every day you come here in a suit and tie, shiny shoes. You must do pretty well at your job, right? What do you do there?" Henry almost choked on his own saliva. It was the question he dreaded most. How could he explain that he wasn't just an employee, but the owner of that entire 40-story company? How could he say he had more money in the bank than most people would see in a lifetime? "Oh, he stammered, searching for an answer that wasn't a full lie but also not the whole explosive truth. "I'm just a regular employee, trying to build something in life, you know?" "What kind of employee?" "Office work," he answered quickly. "Paperwork, boring meetings, that kind of thing. Nothing exciting." Emma stopped stirring and looked at him with a playful expression. "Really? Because you look more like someone who gives orders than someone who follows them." Henry's heart skipped a beat. Had she figured him out? "What do you mean?" "I don't know. You have that leadership posture. Shoulders straight, chin up, the way you talk." She turned back to cooking, thoughtful. My grandma used to say you can tell a lot about a person by the way they carry themselves. And what does my posture say about me? Henry asked, genuinely curious. That you're used to responsibility, to making important decisions, and, she winked, that you're pretending to be more ordinary than you really are. Henry swallowed hard. Emma was more observant than he thought. Maybe I just have good posture. He tried to steer the conversation elsewhere. Could be, she agreed, though Henry noticed she wasn't fully convinced. So, office worker, how long have you been there? About a few years, he answered vaguely. Technically not a lie. He'd founded the company 5 years ago. Do you like what you do? Henry paused to think. It was a strange question. When was the last time someone had asked if he liked his job? It's complicated, he finally said. Sometimes it's rewarding. Other times it's lonely. Lonely? Emma plated the food and handed it to him. But don't you work with other people? Yes, but... Henry picked up the fork, trying to find the right words. Sometimes you can be surrounded by people and still feel completely alone, you know? Emma stopped what she was doing and looked at him with a more serious expression. Wow, that's kind of deep, Fancy Tie. Sorry, didn't mean to get dramatic. No, it's interesting. It's just, you seem to carry a lot on your shoulders for someone who's just an office worker. Henry took a bite of the rice and eggs, using the food as an excuse not to answer right away. As always, the taste transported him somewhere lighter, simpler. And you? He asked, changing the subject. Did you always want to have a food cart? Oh no. Emma laughed. My real dream is to have a restaurant, a small, cozy place where people come not just to eat, but to feel at home. Why don't you go for it? Mostly money, she shrugged. A restaurant needs startup funds, licenses, it's expensive. But I save a little every month, maybe someday. Henry felt a strange tug in his chest. There was this talented woman with a real dream, fighting for every penny to make it happen, something he could fund without even noticing the expense. I'm sure you'll get there, he said sincerely. Your food is amazing. Any restaurant would be lucky to have you. Emma blushed a little. Thanks, really. Sometimes you need to hear that from someone. Hear what? That your dreams make sense, that they're not silly. They were quiet for a moment, Henry eating and Emma tidying up her tools. But it wasn't an awkward silence. It was warm. Can I ask you something? Emma finally said. Sure. Why do you always eat alone? I never see you with friends, family, a girlfriend. Henry almost choked. I don't have a girlfriend, he answered quickly. Why not? Handsome guy, well-dressed, polite, she ticked off her fingers. You must have a line of admirers. It's not that simple. Why not? Henry thought about how to explain it without sounding pathetic. How could he say that most women who showed interest in him were more into his bank account than the person? It's hard to know if people like you for who you are or for what you represent. Emma frowned. What you represent? You're an office worker, Henry, not the president. He let out a bitter laugh. Sometimes people get the wrong idea because of how you look, how you dress. They imagine things that aren't true. Like what? That you have more money than you really do. That your life is glamorous. That you can offer a lifestyle that, well, maybe you can't. Emma studied him for a moment. You know what I think? What? I think you're running from the wrong people and forgetting there are the right ones. What do you mean? If someone only cares about your money or status, then they're not worth it. But there are people who care about character, kindness, a good sense of humor, she smiled, and the cute way someone eats rice and eggs. Henry laughed for real. Cute? You make this super focused face like it's the most important thing in the world. It's kind of adorable. Adorable? He repeated, surprised, completely. They looked at each other for a moment that lasted a bit too long. Henry felt something stir in his chest, something warm and unfamiliar. Emma? Yes? Thank you. For what? For seeing past the tie. Emma smiled, and Henry felt himself falling in love. Not just with the food, but with the amazing woman who made it. The woman who saw him as a person, not a title or a bank balance. And right then, he made a risky decision. He would keep being just Henry, the office worker, the simple man trying to build something in life. Because for the first time in years, someone was falling for who he truly was beneath all the success and money. And he wasn't ready to lose that, even if it meant living the biggest lie of his life. It was a quieter Friday when Henry arrived at the cart and saw Emma organizing some old photos in a small shoebox. She smiled when she saw him, but there was something different in her eyes, a mix of nostalgia and pride. Look who's here, my most punctual customer, she teased, quickly putting the photos away. The usual? Always, Henry confirmed, curious about the pictures. Can I ask what those photos were? Emma hesitated for a second, then smiled and pulled out one of the photos. My sister Sophia. She's 16 and the smartest person I know. Henry looked at the photo, a smiling girl holding a school diploma. She's beautiful. She looks like you. She's much better than me, Emma said with genuine pride. Top of her class, wants to be a doctor. She's in her last year of high school and already dreaming of med school. That's amazing. Where does she study? At a private school nearby. I got her a partial scholarship, but I still have to pay part of the tuition. Henry started to understand the bigger picture. Emma worked every day, rain or shine, to support her sister's dream. And your parents? Emma was quiet for a moment, stirring the rice on the griddle. My dad disappeared when Sophia was 5. My mom, she passed away 3 years ago. Emma, I'm sorry. Thank you, she smiled sadly. It was a tough time. I was 19, Sophia was 13. Suddenly I became a mom, a dad, a sister, all at once. Henry felt a tightness in his chest. While he was building a business empire, Emma was raising a child on her own. How did you do it? I mean, you were so young to take on so much. Oh, it was intense, Emma said, cracking eggs on the griddle, the familiar sound echoing on the corner. At first, I worked 3 jobs, cleaning in the morning, retail in the afternoon, and at night I made cakes to sell. 3 jobs? Yep. I slept maybe 4 hours a night, if that. But Sophia needed me, you know. She couldn't fall behind in school. She couldn't stop dreaming of college just because life was unfair to us. Henry stopped eating, completely absorbed by her story. And the food cart? How did that idea come up? Emma smiled, a happier memory lighting up her face. Would you believe it was Sophia's idea? I was exhausted, running between jobs, barely making anything. One day I came home crying because I lost the job at the store. Sophia saw me there, a mess, and said, Emma, you cook better than any restaurant in this city. Why don't you sell your food? And you believed her? At first, no. It seemed impossible. But then she showed me some YouTube videos of people who started with food carts and now have famous restaurants. She convinced me. Emma flipped the eggs with that same precision Henry already admired. We used our savings, which weren't much, bought this used cart and started selling in front of her school on weekends. That first day, we only sold 2 plates. And now? Now I sell about 50 plates a day. I was able to quit my other jobs and focus only on this. Sophia's staying on top of her schoolwork. We can pay the rent, and there's even a little left to save for the restaurant dream. Henry finished his plate in silence, taking in everything he had just heard. Here was a woman who had turned tragedy into determination, hardship into opportunity. While he spent his days in endless meetings, discussing investments that didn't really affect his life, Emma was building something real, something that mattered. You're amazing, Emma, he said, genuinely moved. Oh, come on, she laughed, a little embarrassed. I just did what anyone would do. No, that's not true. A lot of people would have given up, but you didn't. You kept going, and look how far you've come. I still have a long way to go, but thank you. Sometimes it's nice to hear that. Henry looked at Emma, really looked. He saw the calloused hands from so much work. He saw the tiredness hidden in her smile. He saw the quiet strength of someone who never had a choice but to be strong. And suddenly his own life felt empty. He had everything money could buy, but what Emma had, purpose, real connection, the satisfaction of knowing every day's work meant something, that he didn't have. Emma? Yes? Have you ever thought about expanding? I mean, your food is incredible. You could. Slow down, Mr. Fancy Tie, she laughed. First, I want to make sure Sophia finishes school. Then we'll see what the future holds. Henry paid for his meal, left a generous tip as always, and said goodbye. But instead of heading straight to his car, he decided to walk a bit to think about everything he had just heard. And that's when he saw it. Posted on a street pole at the corner was a colorful flyer that caught his eye. National Street Food Competition. Show your talent. Prize, $50,000 and culinary consulting. Sign up by April 15. Henry stopped and read the flyer twice. $50,000. Culinary consulting. It was exactly what Emma needed to make her dream of a restaurant come true. He looked back toward the cart, where Emma was still working, wearing that smile that seemed to light up the whole block. An idea started forming in his mind, an idea that could change everything for her. Henry took a photo of the flyer with his phone and smiled. Maybe it was time to give back a little of the happiness Emma had brought into his life. The next day, Henry arrived at the cart with a different kind of energy. Emma noticed right away. He looked excited, like he had just discovered something worth sharing. "Good morning, Mr. Fancy Tie," she greeted, already starting to prepare his usual dish. "You've got a strange look on your face today. Something good happen?" "Actually, yes," Henry smiled, pulling out his phone. "I want to show you something." He showed her the picture of the competition flyer. Emma stopped stirring the rice on the griddle and frowned. "National Street Food Competition?" she read aloud. "And why are you showing me this? Because you should enter." Emma laughed so loudly that a pigeon pecking at crumbs near the cart flew off in fright. "Me, Henry? Have you lost your mind?" "I'm serious," he insisted, putting the phone away. "Look at that prize, $50,000 in culinary consulting. It's exactly what you need for your restaurant." "Henry," Emma shook her head, going back to cooking. "That's not for people like me." "What do you mean, people like you?" "People without culinary training, without professional skills," she said, cracking eggs harder than necessary. "I learned to cook from my grandmother in our kitchen at home. I didn't study in some fancy cooking school." "So what?" "So what?" She looked at him, incredulous. "Henry, those competitions are for real chefs, people who know how to make complicated sauces, fancy dishes. All I know how to make is rice and eggs." "Just that." Henry moved closer to the cart, resting his elbows on the counter. "Emma, in the last 2 months, I've eaten at some of the best restaurants in Seattle. You know what the best meal I had was?" "Which one?" "Every single one I had here." Emma stopped stirring and looked at him. "You're just being nice." "No, I'm being honest. You win people over with rice and eggs. What more do you need?" "You need technique, knowledge, professional equipment." "You already have the technique, and the knowledge too. As for equipment," Henry gestured toward the cart, "you work magic with this thing. Just imagine what you could do with better tools." Emma served his plate, clearly shaken. "Henry, you don't understand. These competitions are on TV. There will be famous judges, well-known chefs. They'll laugh at me when I show up with my rice and eggs." "Let them laugh," Henry said, picking up his fork. "At least until they taste it." "You're crazy. Completely crazy." "Maybe. But do you know what I've learned in the last few years at work?" "What?" "That real talent always wins in the end. And you, Emma," he took a bite and smiled, "you have more than enough talent." Emma was quiet for a moment, wiping her hands on her apron. "Even if I wanted to, and I don't, the deadline has probably passed." Henry checked the date on his phone. "There's still a week left. Plenty of time." "Henry, just listen. What's the worst that could happen? You don't make it past the first round? So what? At least you tried. But what if you move on? What if you win?" Emma looked at him, and Henry saw the struggle in her eyes. $50,000, Emma. Do you know what that would mean for your restaurant? For Sophia's future?" "Stop," she murmured. "Don't go putting ideas in my head." "Why not? They're good ideas." "Because," she sighed, "because I'll start dreaming about it and then get disappointed when it doesn't work out." Henry finished his plate and stood up. "You know what your problem is, Emma?" "What?" "You're afraid of your own talent." She looked at him, surprised by his words. "You take care of your sister, run a home, built a business from nothing," he continued. "But you're afraid of a competition?" "It's not fear, it's being realistic." "It's fear," he said gently. "Fear of finding out you're even better than you think." Emma stayed quiet, fidgeting with her utensils. "What if I make a fool of myself? What if you don't?" They looked at each other for a long moment. Henry could see Emma fighting with herself, the part of her that wanted to dream against the part that had always played it safe. "I'll think about it," she finally said. "That's all I'm asking." Henry paid the bill and said goodbye, but stopped after a few steps. "Emma? Yes? Sophia would be proud of you for trying, no matter what happens." And with that, he walked away, leaving Emma alone with her thoughts and an idea she couldn't get out of her head. The next few days were quiet torture. Emma cooked while thinking about the competition. She served customers, imagining judges tasting her food. At night, she dreamed of awards and disappointments. Henry showed up every day, but didn't bring it up. He just praised the food like always and watched as Emma wrestled with her decision. It was Thursday when Sophia came to the cart after school. "Emma, you've been acting weird this week. Did something happen?" Emma told her about the competition and Henry's suggestion. Sophia listened silently, then smiled. "Are you going to sign up?" "I don't know. It's risky." You know what Mom used to say? What? That the biggest risk is not taking any risk at all. On Friday, the last day for sign-ups, Emma arrived early at the cart. She spent the whole morning cooking and thinking. When Henry came for lunch, she was visibly nervous. "I've decided," she said as soon as she saw him. "And? I'm going to sign up. But if I end up looking ridiculous, it's your fault." Henry grinned from ear to ear. "I'll take full responsibility." That afternoon, 15 minutes before the final deadline, Emma submitted her application online. Her hands were shaking, she was sweating, but she was determined. And when she hit the submit button, she felt like her life had taken a whole new direction. For better or worse, only time would tell. 2 weeks after sending the application, Emma got an email that made her scream with joy in the middle of the street. She had been selected for the interview round of the National Street Food Competition. "Henry! Henry!" she yelled when she saw him walking up to the cart that afternoon. "I made it. I passed to the next round." "I knew it." He smiled, truly happy. "When's the interview?" "Tomorrow. I have to bring a dish for the judges to try." She was clearly nervous, stirring pans that didn't need stirring. "I'm terrified." "It's gonna be fine. Just take your rice and eggs." "Do you really think so?" "I'm sure of it." The next day, Emma arrived at the Seattle Convention Center carrying a thermal container and a heart racing a mile a minute. The place was full of participants with professional equipment, chef uniforms, and dishes that looked like works of art. She felt like a fish out of water. The interview was held in a large room with a table where 3 judges were waiting: TV chef Amanda Sterling, food critic Robert Chen, and the famous French chef Julien Moreau. Julien Moreau was a legend. He had restaurants in Paris, New York, and Los Angeles, 3 Michelin stars, TV shows, cookbooks that were bestsellers all over the world, and an arrogance that could be felt from across the room. "Next," the assistant called out. Emma walked in, trying to look more confident than she felt. "Good morning," she said, placing the food container on the table. "Name?" asked Amanda Sterling, checking her clipboard. "Emma Martinez." "And what did you bring us today?" asked Robert Chen kindly. Emma took a deep breath. "Fried rice with egg." The silence that followed was deafening. Julien Moreau raised his eyebrows and exchanged looks with the other judges. Then he let out a small laugh that made Emma shrink inside. "Rice with egg," he repeated, his French accent thick with disdain. "Even a child can make that." Emma felt her face get hot. "I know it looks simple, but..." "Looks? Ma chérie, it doesn't look simple." "It is simple," Julien interrupted, not even bothering to taste it. "This is a national competition. The other contestants brought elaborate dishes, complex techniques, artistic presentation, and you bring rice and egg? Isn't flavor what matters most?" Emma tried to defend herself, but her voice came out weaker than she intended. "Flavor?" Julien laughed again. "My dear, anyone who can hold a pan can make rice with egg. Where is the innovation, the technique, the creativity?" Amanda Sterling picked up a fork and tasted a small bite. Her expression softened slightly. "Actually, it tastes pretty good." "Of course it tastes good." Julien cut her off. "It's rice and egg. There's salt, there's fat. This isn't about tasting good, it's about taking food to an artistic level." Robert Chen also took a bite and nodded approvingly. "There's something special in this dish. The seasoning is really well balanced." "You're both being far too generous," Julien waved off his colleagues' opinions. "This competition is for serious chefs, not for people making home cooking." Emma felt tears burning in her eyes. "My grandfather used to say that good food comes from the heart." She tried one last time. "I doubt your grandfather was a professional chef," Julien replied coldly. "Let me give you some advice, ma petite. Go back to your little street cart and leave serious cooking to the professionals." Emma picked up her food container with trembling hands. "Thank you for your time," she murmured, and left the room as quickly as she could. In the hallway, she leaned against the wall and took a deep breath, trying not to cry. Julien was right. What had she been thinking? Competing with real chefs using her simple rice and egg? "Emma?" She turned and saw Henry walking toward her. "What are you doing here?" she asked, surprised. "I came to support you. How did it go?" Emma couldn't hold back the tears anymore. "It was a disaster. You were wrong, Henry. I never should have come." "What happened?" "One of the judges, Julien Moreau, he humiliated my dish in front of everyone. Said rice and egg is something even a kid can make, that I should go back to my little cart and leave serious food to real chefs." Henry felt a wave of anger rise in his chest. "He said that?" "He did. And you know what's worse? He's right. What was I thinking? That I'd show up with my little dish and impress everybody. Henry gently held her shoulders. Listen to me, Emma. You want to know what I think of this Julian Moreau guy? What? I think he forgot the most important thing about food, which is that it should touch people's hearts, not just try to impress them. Emma wiped her tears with the back of her hand. But he's right. Rice and egg is too simple. Sometimes the simplest dish has the truest flavor, Henry said, looking into her eyes. Do you think I've come back to your cart every day for months because I'm trying to impress someone? I come back because your food makes me feel at home. But that's not enough in a competition. Says who? Emma, how many times have you seen someone cry over a fancy gourmet dish? Never, I guess. Exactly. But I've seen people cry over their grandma's food, simple food, made with love. He smiled. Your problem isn't the dish. It's that you're trying to be something you're not. What do you mean? You're trying to be a French chef when you should be Emma Martinez, the one who makes the best rice and egg in Seattle. Emma let out a small laugh through her tears. You really think my rice and egg is special? Emma, if I could eat just one thing for the rest of my life, it would be your rice and egg. You're exaggerating. I'm not exaggerating. Last week I dreamed about your rice and egg. I wake up thinking about it. It's pathetic, but it's true. Emma laughed for real this time. You dream about food? What kind of dream is that? The kind where I wake up with my mouth watering, Henry said, blushing slightly. One time, I dreamed you opened a restaurant and I was the only customer. And what was the restaurant like? There was just one table, one dish on the menu, and I was the happiest man in the world. Emma looked at him, feeling something warm in her chest. Henry? Yes. Thank you for believing in me even when I don't believe in myself. Always. They looked at each other for a moment, and Emma felt that maybe, just maybe, she should try one more time. Julian Moreau might have his Michelin stars, but she had something he would never have, soul seasoning, and that, she was starting to realize, was worth much more. After the conversation with Henry in the hallway, Emma felt a strange kind of courage growing in her chest. Maybe it was anger, maybe it was stubbornness, or maybe it was just the need to prove that arrogant French chef completely wrong. You know what? She said, fixing her hair. I'm going back in there. You are? I am. And I'm going to make that Julian whatever Moreau eat his words. Literally. Henry smiled. That's what I like to hear. Emma knocked on the interview room door and walked in without waiting for an answer. Excuse me, she said, placing her food container back on the table. I forgot to mention something. Julian rolled his eyes. Ma chérie, we already said. Did you taste it? Emma interrupted him. Excuse me? I asked if you tasted my food before saying it was too simple. Julian blinked, clearly not expecting that. I don't need to taste it to know that. Oh, so you're like a psychic chef? Emma crossed her arms. You can taste food just by looking? What an amazing talent. Robert Chen held back a laugh. Amanda Sterling was clearly enjoying this. Listen here, young lady. Julian began, but Emma didn't let him finish. No, you listen, she pointed her finger at him. You're judging my food without even tasting it. Is that professional? Is this how you do things in France? Well, because where I come from, we at least taste something before saying bad things about it. It's just basic manners. Amanda Sterling burst out laughing. She's right, Julian. Taste the girl's food. Julian, clearly uncomfortable, picked up a fork reluctantly and took a small bite. Then, his expression changed completely. He chewed slowly, furrowed his brow, chewed some more, then stopped. Mon Dieu, he murmured. Exactly, said Emma, satisfied. Not so simple after all, right? How did you get this flavor? Grandma's secret. And by the way, she cooked better than a lot of fancy French chefs I know. Robert Chen laughed out loud now. Emma, you're moving on to the next round, Amanda Sterling announced. Julian? The French chef was still trying to process what he had tasted. Approved, he grumbled, clearly unhappy. Emma smiled and picked up her food container. Thank you. And Mr. Julian, next time, try it before you judge. It'll be less embarrassing. And she walked out of the room like a queen. In the hallway, Henry was waiting with a huge smile on his face. From that smile, I'm guessing it went well? I made it to the next round. Emma threw her arms around him, Stell, and he lifted her off the ground. I knew it. I knew you could do it. When he put her down, they were very close, too close. Emma's heart skipped a beat. Henry, Emma, you were amazing, really. They looked at each other, and for a moment the world seemed to pause. But then Emma remembered where they were and stepped back, blushing. Let's get out of here before I do something else crazy. Over the next 2 weeks, Emma threw herself into preparing for the competition like a woman on a mission. And Henry became practically her unofficial personal assistant. Emma, I got those special spices you wanted, he said one Tuesday, arriving at the cart with several bags. Henry, this must have cost a fortune. Imported spices? Don't worry, it's an investment for the future restaurant of Emma Martinez. You're crazy, she laughed, touched. Thank you. Really. On Thursday, he showed up with brand new equipment. A portable electric griddle, he announced, taking it out of the box, so you can practice at home. Henry, this thing costs more than my rent. It's borrowed, he lied with a straight face, from a friend, a rich one. What rich friend? A very rich friend that I don't know well. Emma narrowed her eyes. You're making this up, aren't you? Completely. But will you accept it anyway? She laughed and shook her head. I'll take it, but only because you're an adorable liar. That weekend, Henry showed up with an even bigger surprise. I created an Instagram profile for you, he said, showing her the phone. Look, at a rose comma more Emma. You already have 300 followers. Wait, how do I already have 300 followers? Well, I might have shared it with a few people I know. What people, Henry? You said you don't have many friends. I have work acquaintances. Administrative folks have their connections. Emma grabbed the phone and looked at the photos he had posted. They were all beautiful, professional, making her food look like it belonged in a magazine. Henry, these pictures are amazing. Who took them? I did, he said proudly. Turns out I have a talent for food photography. Talent? These look completely professional. YouTube University, he shrugged. I watched about 40 tutorials. Emma was both moved and impressed. Why are you doing all this for me? Henry grew serious for a moment. Because you deserve it, and because seeing you happy makes me happy too. They looked at each other again in that way. The air between them almost sparked with tension. Emma moved a little closer. Henry. Emma. He leaned in. She closed her eyes. They were just inches apart when... Emma, what's this about a TV competition the neighbor told me about? Sophia came running over, her school backpack still on, with a look that said she wanted answers. Right now. Emma and Henry pulled apart so quickly they nearly knocked over the griddle. Sophia, you scared me. Emma tried to recover her composure. You got out of school early. I left early to come talk to you, Sophia said, looking from Emma to Henry with that sharp teenage gaze that misses nothing. Hi, Henry. Did I interrupt something? No, you didn't interrupt anything, Emma said quickly. We were just talking. Talking very closely, from what I saw, Sophia said with a sly smile. Henry turned bright red. I was just explaining a food photography technique. Oh, sure, Sophia said, clearly not buying it. And this technique needs you to stand that close? Sophia, Emma protested. Relax, sis. I like Henry. He seems like a good guy, Sophia said, winking at him. Just don't do that kind of stuff in front of the cart. It's bad for business. Emma was mortified. Henry looked like he wanted to hide behind the griddle. Now tell me how the competition interview went. Sophia crossed her arms. And just like that, with Sophia asking 100 questions and Henry pretending to reorganize the spices for the 10th time, the romantic moment vanished completely. But Emma couldn't stop smiling. Because for the first time in her life, she had someone who believed in her. Someone who was willing to invest time, money, and energy in her dreams. And judging by the way Henry looked at her, maybe, just maybe, he felt something more than friendship. The problem was, she was starting to feel it too. And it was getting harder and harder to ignore. If there had been a contest for most nervous person in the universe, Emma would have won by a landslide that Saturday morning. She arrived at Pier 70, the competition location, at 6 in the morning, pushing her cart through the still, empty streets of Seattle. The event wouldn't start until 9, but she needed time to calm herself down, or at least try. Deep breath, Emma. It's just a national competition being broadcast live to 3 million people. No pressure at all, she muttered to herself. When she got there, she stopped and widened her eyes. The pier had been transformed into a full-blown food fair. Colorful tents, cameras everywhere, a swarm of producers rushing around with clipboards and headsets, and the other competitors. Oh dear. Emma looked around and wanted to crawl under her cart. To her right was a food truck that looked like it had been pulled straight out of a design magazine. all black and gold, with the name Gourmet Fusion written in elegant letters. The chef, a man with a hipster beard and leather apron, was organizing ingredients Emma didn't even recognize. To her left, a huge red trailer with a kitchen that looked more high-tech than a NASA lab. The chef, a blonde woman in a spotless uniform, was testing what looked like a culinary blowtorch. And behind her, the most intimidating of them all, a food truck that looked like a luxury restaurant on wheels. Mirrored windows, an internal sound system, and even a TV playing videos of the chef's dishes. And then there was Emma, with her peeling blue cart, 2 pots, a slightly crooked griddle, and an umbrella that had definitely seen better days. "Can I help you?" a producer asked, approaching with a polite smile that didn't quite hide her confusion. "Are you a contestant or a local vendor?" "Contestant," Emma replied, trying to sound confident. "Emma Martinez." The producer checked her clipboard, clearly surprised. "Oh, you're the street cart one. That's me. How interesting." "Well, your space is over there," she said, pointing to a tiny spot between 2 massive food trucks. "Good luck." Emma pushed her cart to her little corner and tried not to feel like David facing several Goliaths at once. "Hey there," said the hipster chef from the gold food truck. "First time in the competition?" "Yeah. And you?" "Third time. Marcel Dubois," he said, extending his hand, executive chef at 5 restaurants in San Francisco. "Emma Martinez, executive chef of 1 cart." Marcel laughed, clearly thinking she was joking. "Funny. So what's your specialty?" "Fried rice with egg." Marcel's laugh stopped short. You're serious?" "Completely." Marcel blinked a few times, then gave a nervous little chuckle. "That's bold, very minimalistic." "It's one way to put it," Emma agreed. From the other side, the blonde chef walked over. "Victoria Ashford," she said, holding out a perfectly manicured hand. "Graduated from the Culinary Institute of America." "And you?" "Emma Martinez, graduated from Grandma's University." Victoria frowned. "Not familiar with that one." "That's because it's just a kitchen, with a very wise grandma." Victoria smiled politely, but Emma saw her exchange a look with Marcel. At exactly 9 a.m., the cameras started rolling and the host, a tall man with a made-for-TV smile, kicked off the show. "Welcome to the National Street Food Competition. Today, 10 talented chefs will compete for the grand prize of $50,000. The crowd of spectators cheered. Emma gave a small wave, feeling completely out of place. "Chefs, you have 2 hours to prepare your best dishes. Your time starts now." And that's when chaos broke out. Marcel fired up equipment that sounded louder than a jet engine. Victoria started flambeing something with her blowtorch. The chef with the giant food truck cranked up some electronic music that made the whole pier shake. And Emma tried to light her stove. Tried once. Nothing. Tried twice. Still nothing. On the 3rd try, a tiny spark, and then nothing again. "No, no, no," she muttered, turning the knob desperately. The stove was completely dead. Emma felt panic rise in her throat. Around her, the other competitors were already cooking like their lives depended on it. The clock showed 1 hour and 55 minutes. "Everything okay over there, Emma?" the host shouted, approaching with the cameras. All good," she lied, still struggling with the burner. "Just warming up the equipment." Such dedication. Emma's taking her time to make sure everything is just right. The cameras moved on, but Emma knew she couldn't fake it much longer. She tried again, tapped the burner, silently begged. But nothing worked. "Sorry, Grandma," she whispered, tears of frustration welling up in her eyes. "Looks like this isn't going to happen." She was just about to raise her hand and give up when she heard a familiar voice shouting from beyond the security barrier. "Emma, don't give up. I brought back up." It was Henry, and he was carrying what looked like a spare gas tank. Emma had never been so happy to see someone in her entire life. The problem was, how would he get to her? The competition area was restricted. Only contestants and production staff were allowed inside. But apparently, Henry had thought of that too. Because the next thing she knew, he was sprinting toward the security barrier like an Olympic pole vaulter. Sir, stop!" the security guards yelled. But Henry had already jumped the fence with a speed no one expected from a guy in a suit. "Food emergency," he shouted, running toward Emma's cart with the tank in his hands. "Culinary rescue in progress." The crowd burst into laughter and applause. The cameras chased after him. The host didn't know whether to laugh or call security. "Henry, are you out of your mind?" Emma asked, but she was smiling. "Totally," he answered, already hooking up the new tank. "But I wasn't going to let you quit because of a stubborn stove." In just a few minutes, Henry had swapped the tank and fixed the connection. The burner came back to life with a perfect blue flame. "It works," Emma shouted, hugging Henry right in front of everyone. The crowd went wild. The host decided to just go with it. And that, folks, is how you pull off a culinary rescue. Henry, do you have experience with kitchen equipment maintenance? "I've got experience making sure Emma doesn't give up on her dreams," Henry replied, still wrapped in Emma's emotional hug. And with that, he jumped back over the barrier and was escorted out by security. But not before shouting, "Go, Emma! Show them the power of egg-fried rice." Emma wiped her tears, lit the burner, and smiled at the cameras. After the most epic culinary rescue in the history of cooking competitions, Emma had an hour and 40 minutes on the clock, and a level of determination that could move mountains, or at least make the best egg-fried rice in the universe. "Let's do this, Grandma," she whispered, lighting the fresh burner. "Time to show these chefs that soul seasoning isn't something you learn in school." The perfect blue flame roared to life, and Emma felt like her grandmother's spirit was right there, guiding her hands. Across the competition area, Julien Moreau had completely stopped what he was doing. He was watching Emma with an expression that hovered between disbelief and curiosity. "Chef Julien?" his assistant asked. "Aren't you finishing the beurre blanc sauce?" Julien murmured, eyes still locked on Emma. "I'm observing an interesting technique." Which, of course, wasn't true. Emma was literally just heating oil on a griddle. But there was something about the way she moved, a quiet confidence that was completely different from her earlier nerves. Emma began her cooking dance. First came the garlic, finely chopped, golden, and fragrant. The smell drifted through the air, and even the other competitors started sniffing around. "What is that smell?" Victoria asked, pausing her modern art-level vegetable sculpture. "Garlic," Marcel answered, stopping in the middle of plating his tuna carpaccio with caviar. "Garlic? Just garlic? How can it be so strong?" Meanwhile, Emma added the onions, sliced thin, slowly caramelizing. She stirred with a grace that felt like a dance, every move precise yet natural. Julien moved closer, pretending to check his own ingredients. "Impossible," he muttered. "She's making fried rice." "Yep, chef," his assistant said. "Very basic." "No, look how she controls the heat, the timing, the—" Julien stopped himself, realizing he was praising the technique he had mocked earlier. Emma tossed the rice onto the griddle. Not just any rice. This was rice she had cooked the night before and chilled, giving it the perfect texture for frying. Each grain stayed separate, dancing on the hot surface. "Oh my goodness," someone in the crowd shouted. "Look at that rice jump." The host approached with the cameras. "Emma, can you walk us through your technique?" "It's simple," she said, still stirring. "The rice needs to be cold, the griddle nice and hot, and you have to stir with love, not with hurry." "Stir with love?" "Every grain matters. If you mistreat one, the others get sad." In the crowd, Henry was still being held back by 2 security guards, but he was shouting words of encouragement. "That's it, Emma. Show them what happy rice can do." "Sir, you need to stay quiet," said one of the guards. "Impossible. My friend is making history." Emma heard him and smiled, not missing a beat. She added a drizzle of soy sauce. Then, fresh scallions, chopped at the last second to keep their bright green color. And then the big moment, the eggs. She made a well in the center of the rice, like a little crater. She cracked 2 eggs right into it, their golden yolks spreading like tiny suns. "Crater technique," Marcel noted, clearly impressed in spite of himself. "Very clever." "It's just common sense," Victoria replied, but she was watching closely too. Emma folded everything together, incorporating the eggs with steady, gentle movements. The result was a golden, creamy mixture that smelled like comfort and happiness. 15 minutes left, the host announced. Emma was perfectly on time. She tasted the rice with a spoon, adjusted the flavor with a pinch of salt and a drop of sesame oil. "Done," she said, turning off the heat. Around her, the other competitors were in full panic mode. Marcel was trying to plate 3 dishes at once. Victoria was flambeing something that looked dangerously close to setting her food truck on fire. And Emma was calmly plating her egg-fried rice onto plain white dishes that made the food shine. "Time's up." The judges stepped forward for the tasting. Along with Julien Moreau, there were Amanda Sterling and Robert Chen, and a surprise, a special guest judge, TV chef Marcus Williams. "Let's start with Marcel," Amanda announced. Marcel presented his bluefin tuna carpaccio with Osetra caviar and sake reduction. It looked like a painting, Technically perfect, Marcus said. Flawless presentation. But it lacks soul, Robert added. It's beautiful, but it doesn't move me. Julian just nodded, not wanting to take a side. Victoria brought her vegetable sculpture with black truffle foam and edible flowers. It literally looked like modern art. Innovative, Amanda said. Very creative. But is it food or decoration? Marcus asked. I'm confused. Then it was Emma's turn. She walked up with her 3 simple plates of egg-fried rice. No fancy decorations, no edible flowers or foams, just golden, creamy rice that smelled like home. Emma Martinez, she announced. Fried rice with egg. My grandmother's recipe, made with simple ingredients and a lot of love. Julian rolled his eyes but picked up his fork. Bon, he murmured, clearly not expecting much. He took a bite and stopped. He chewed slowly, a puzzled look spreading across his face. My goodness, he whispered. Amanda tasted it too, and her eyes went wide. My goodness, this is surprisingly emotional, Robert added, visibly moved. How can something so simple feel so deep? Marcus took a bite and stayed silent for a long moment. Emma, he finally said, how old are you? 24. And how long have you been cooking? Since I was tall enough to stand on a stool in Grandma's kitchen. This isn't just food, it's memory, it's feeling, it's love. Amanda said, wiping a tear from the corner of her eye. I can feel the love in this dish. Julian kept chewing in silence, his expression growing more surprised. Julian? Amanda asked. What do you think? The French chef looked at Emma, then at the plate, then back at Emma. I must admit, he began, clearly fighting his pride. Maybe. It's not so simple after all. The crowd burst into applause. Henry managed to break free from security and shouted, That's right! Emma, you're amazing! Emma smiled, tears of joy in her eyes. Thank you, she said. But it wasn't me. It was Grandma. She's the one who deserves the credit. No, Julian said, surprising everyone. The technique may come from your grandmère, but the execution, the passion, that's all you. And for the first time since meeting the arrogant French chef, Emma saw something like respect in his eyes. The audience cheered, the cameras captured every moment, and Emma knew that no matter the final result, she had proven something important. That food made with love always wins, even if it's just egg and rice. The moment to announce the winner had arrived, and the tension at Pier 70 was so thick you could cut it with a chef's knife. Emma stood beside the other competitors, trying to look calm, but inside, she was a bundle of nerves. Marcel was adjusting his hipster beard over and over. Victoria was checking her reflection on her phone for the 5th time in a minute. And the chef from the giant food truck was doing breathing exercises that looked like training for deep-sea diving. And now, the moment everyone's been waiting for, the host announced, drawing it out like he was revealing the secret of the universe. The winner of the National Street Food Competition is... The pause felt eternal. Emma held her breath. Emma Martinez. The world exploded. The crowd went wild. The cameras rushed in to catch the shot. Golden confetti started falling from the sky like magic rain. Emma stood frozen for a full 3 seconds, not believing what she had just heard. Me? She shouted, pointing to herself. Are you sure? Absolutely. The host said, laughing. You are officially the National Street Food Champion. Emma started jumping in place like a kid who just got her dream Christmas gift. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. In the middle of the crowd, Henry was screaming louder than anyone. That's my friend. I knew her before she was famous. Security didn't even try to stop him anymore. Amanda Sterling came forward with a giant check, TV show style, and a bouquet of flowers. Emma, congratulations, $50,000 and a full culinary consulting package to help you open your dream restaurant. Emma took the check and started crying. Grandma, we did it, she sobbed, looking up at the sky. So how does it feel to be the girl who won a national competition with just rice and eggs? A reporter asked, shoving a microphone in her face. I feel like I could fly, Emma replied, still crying and laughing at the same time. At that moment, Henry broke through security again. Apparently he was developing ninja skills and ran toward the stage. Emma, he shouted, climbing the steps 2 at a time. Henry, she shouted back. They ran toward each other like a scene from a romantic movie. When they met in the middle of the stage, Henry lifted her up and spun her around. You did it. I knew you could, he said, his voice thick with emotion. Thank you for believing in me, she said. Thank you for saving me when the stove broke. Thank you for... And then, caught up in the moment, in the thrill of victory, with millions of people watching, Emma grabbed Henry by the tie and kissed him. It was a Hollywood-style kiss, the kind that makes the crowd sigh and photographers go wild. The cameras caught everything, the flashes exploded, and the crowd screamed even louder. When they pulled apart, both of them were blushing, breathless, and smiling like two teenagers in love. "Wow," Henry murmured. "Yeah," Emma agreed. "Wow." The host, ever the professional, decided to roll with the romantic moment. And just like that, folks, we don't just have a new champion. We have a new couple. Love was in the air and in the rice and eggs. The celebration went on for another hour. Emma gave interviews, took pictures, signed aprons. Henry stayed by her side the whole time, proud as a peacock. That's when a reporter came over. "Emma, one last question," he said. "A lot of people are curious about your relationship with CEO Henry Brooks. How did you two meet?" Emma blinked. "Sorry, what?" "CEO Henry Brooks of Brooks Industries," the reporter repeated, as if it were obvious. "One of the biggest investment companies on the West Coast. How did you meet?" Emma slowly turned to Henry, who had gone pale as a ghost. "CEO?" she asked, her voice strangely calm. "Emma, Henry began. "Brooks Industries?" she continued. "The company in the building where you work?" "I can explain. Where you're an administrative employee?" Henry swallowed hard. "Technically, I am administrative. I manage the whole company." Emma stared at him for a long moment. Around them, reporters waited, cameras rolled, and the party continued. But for Emma, time had stopped. "Excuse me," she said politely to the reporters. "I need to speak with CEO Brooks in private." She took Henry by the arm and pulled him away from the cameras, toward a quieter corner of the pier. "Emma," he started. "No," she raised her hand. "Let me get this straight. For the past few months you've been lying to me about who you are?" "I didn't exactly lie." "Henry," she burst out, "you're one of the richest men in Seattle. You own the company, and you told me you were an administrative worker trying to build something. Technically, I am trying to build something." "You already built it. You have an empire." Henry ran a hand through his hair, clearly desperate. "Emma, listen. I wanted you to know me for who I really am, not for what I have." "But you lied about who you are." "No, I just left out a few details about my financial situation." "A few details?" Emma laughed bitterly. "Henry, you're a millionaire. That's not a few details, that's your whole life." "My whole life changed when I met you," he protested. "For the first time someone liked me for who I am, not for what I can give. But you didn't give me the chance to figure that out for myself." Tears started to roll down her face. "You decided for me that I was after your money." "No, I never thought that." "Then why lie? Why pretend to be someone else?" Henry stood in silence, not knowing how to explain years of shallow relationships with people who only saw him as a bank account. "Emma, you have to understand. Every woman who ever got close to me only wanted." "I'm not every woman," she shouted. "I'm me, and you never gave me a chance to prove that." "But you did prove it. You fell in love with me thinking I was broke." "I fell in love with someone who doesn't exist." Emma wiped her tears with the back of her hand. "The Henry who's an admin trying to make something of himself. That guy doesn't exist. You're Henry the billionaire CEO who plays poor. I'm still the same person." "No, you're not. The same person wouldn't lie." Henry felt the ground fall out from under him. "Emma, please. What I feel for you is real. What we had together was real." Emma looked at him for a long moment, and Henry saw the exact moment she made her decision. "Maybe it was real for you," she said, her voice breaking. "But for me, I can't be with someone who lied about who they are. That's not love, Henry. That's a lie." "Emma, no," she shook her head. "It's over. We're over." And with that, she turned and walked away, leaving Henry alone on the pier, his heart shattered, knowing he had lost the one thing in life that truly mattered. In the distance, Emma got into the taxi that would take her home, holding the $50,000 check that was supposed to represent the fulfillment of her dreams. But in that moment, it felt like just a piece of paper, worth nothing compared to what she had just lost. 2 months after the competition, Emma stood in front of a small place in Capitol Hill, holding the keys to what would be Rice and Love, her very own restaurant. It wasn't anything fancy. 12 tables, an open kitchen, exposed brick walls, and a rustic charm that made everyone feel at home. Just like she had dreamed. "I can't believe we did it, Grandma," she whispered, looking up at the sky. Sophia was next to her, practically bouncing with excitement. "Emma, just look at this. You've got a real restaurant." "We've got a restaurant," Emma corrected her. "You're the one who gave me the strength to get here." What still puzzled her was how it had all come together so quickly. Yes, she had the $50,000 from the prize, but renovating the place, buying equipment, getting licenses, it was all much more expensive than she'd imagined. That's when the anonymous investor showed up. One day, a lawyer called saying a client wanted to invest in her restaurant but wished to remain anonymous. The investment would cover all extra costs, with no interest and no claim to the profits. "Is this real?" Emma asked, skeptical. "Completely legal," the lawyer assured her. "My client has just one condition: you can never know who it is." It was strange, but Emma wasn't in a position to say no. And so, Rice and Love became a reality. The opening was a huge success. Lines out the door, food critics, influencers, and of course, all the loyal customers from her food cart. But through all those months of hard work and success, Emma carried a quiet sadness. No matter how many compliments she got or how many plates she served, there was always an emptiness. She missed Henry. Not the rich CEO who lied, but the man who ate rice and eggs every day with that focused little face. The man who believed in her dreams when she couldn't believe in them herself. "Emma," said Sophia one morning while helping prep in the kitchen, "you're thinking about him again." "About who?" "Henry. You get that lost puppy look every time he crosses your mind." "I do not." "You do, and look." Sophia stepped closer. "I know he lied, but you saw the way he looked at you. That wasn't a lie." Emma sighed. "It doesn't matter, Sophie. He made his choice. He chose to pretend instead of trusting me. Or maybe he was just scared of losing you. Fear doesn't justify lies." Sophia was about to respond when the doorbell rang. "Good morning." Emma greeted automatically without looking. "Welcome to Rice and Love." "Hi," said a familiar, nervous voice. "Are you looking for a dishwasher?" Emma turned and nearly dropped the pot she was holding. It was Henry, but not Henry the CEO in a perfect suit. This Henry wore jeans, a simple t-shirt, and a shy smile she hadn't seen in months. "Henry?" she whispered. "Hi, Emma. The place looks amazing." Sophia looked between them and decided she urgently needed to check on something in the back. "I'll just go check. Important stuff," she said, disappearing into the kitchen. Emma stood still, unsure of what to say. "What are you doing here?" "Looking for a job," he answered, with that half smile that used to completely disarm her. "I heard you might need help in the kitchen." "Henry, I work cheap, and I'm really good at washing dishes." Emma crossed her arms. "You don't have to hide again." Henry sighed and stepped closer to the counter. "I'm not hiding. I'm being honest, for the first time in a long time." "Honest about what?" "About the fact that the last 6 months have been the worst of my life," he said, placing his hands on the counter. "About how I wake up every day thinking about your rice and eggs. About how I've dreamed of you every single night." Emma felt her heart race but kept a serious face. And about how I found out who your mysterious anonymous investor is." Emma's blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" "Emma, I'm your anonymous investor." Her eyes widened. "You?" "Me. And before you get angry, let me explain." He raised his hands in surrender. "I couldn't let you give up on your dream because of money. Not after seeing how you shined in that competition. Henry, I know you don't want anything to do with me. I know I messed everything up, but I never stopped cheering for you, even from afar." Emma looked at him for a long moment. "You invested in my restaurant?" "I invested in your talent, in your dream, in you." "Why?" Henry took a deep breath. "Because if I lied before, it was out of fear. Fear of not being enough for you. Fear that once you found out who I really was, you'd walk away. But if I'm here now, it's because what I feel is real. It always was." Emma felt tears starting to form in her eyes. "Henry, Emma, I don't want to be a CEO for you. I don't want to be rich for you. I just want to be the man who loves the way you cook, who believes in your dreams, and who would do anything to see you happy. Even if that means washing dishes, especially if that means washing dishes, by your side." Emma looked at him for what felt like forever. Then a small smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. "Then prove it," she said, "and this time, no pretending." "No pretending," he agreed, "no lies. And starting as a dishwasher for real." Henry laughed. "Deal. But can I ask for a raise later on? We'll see what kind of employee you are first." They looked at each other and laughed, and then Henry leaned over the counter and kissed her. It was a sweet, honest kiss, full of forgiveness and new beginnings. When they pulled apart, Sophia appeared, clapping her hands. "Finally, you two are more stubborn than mules." 3 months later, on what seemed like an ordinary Thursday night, Henry showed up at the restaurant with a bouquet of flowers and a mysterious smile. "What's this?" Emma asked, a little suspicious. "Can you close the restaurant a little early today? Why have a surprise?" An hour later, Rice and Love had been transformed into a romantic version of itself. Candles, rose petals, soft music, and only one table in the center. "Henry, what did you do?" He guided her to the table, where there were 2 plates of the famous rice and eggs. "Emma Martinez," he said, kneeling beside the table, "you taught me that the simplest ingredients can create the most extraordinary flavors." Emma put her hands over her mouth. "You taught me that real love doesn't need pretending or lies. It just needs to be real." He pulled a small box from his pocket. "Will you marry me? And before you answer, I promise I won't wash the dishes anymore once we're married." Emma laughed through her tears. "Only if you promise to keep eating my rice and eggs every day. Forever." "Then yes." 6 months later, on a beautiful beach in Maui, Emma walked toward a small altar set up in the sand, wearing a simple dress and the brightest smile in the world. Henry waited in a tuxedo, tears of happiness in his eyes. Sophia sat in the front row, crying proudly, holding a bridesmaid's bouquet and a sign that read, "I knew it from the start." And when the priest asked if Emma would take Henry as her husband, she looked into his eyes and said, "I do. Forever. With rice and eggs and everything." The next day, back at the restaurant, a famous food critic came in for a review. "It's just rice and eggs, right?" she asked, looking at the menu. Emma, now wearing a wedding ring that sparkled like her happiness, smiled. "Just wait until you try it." And when the critic took her first bite, Emma saw that same look of surprise and emotion in her eyes that she saw in everyone who tasted her food. Because in the end, the secret was never the rice or the egg. It was the love. And love, when it's real, flavors everything. What did you think of Henry and Emma's story? Let us know in the comments. Rate this story from 0 to 10. What's your score? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to follow all our stories. And click here on the final screen to watch more emotional stories.